Next of Duffy's key poems is Before You Are Mine. So this is an interesting one as well. We start with the four stanzas again. They're all similar throughout, because this poem is basically capturing a moment, basically the ideas of maybe some pictures that she's seeing of her mum, or something that she's heard of her mum, etc. And basically you've just got this, each one, it feels like a picture frame, or it feels like something she's kind of maybe found in a cupboard, etc. And so all of them are quite similar length, etc. For that reason, they're all just kind of freeze framed moments, etc. You've got the enjambment as well, the ideas of the word holding there, and those fizzy movie tomorrows obviously kind of gives us a long pause after that one, when you actually kind of just stop to imagine the actual idea of how developed this is. And also you've got the cyclical reference. Obviously the full title is Before You Were Mine, and then the last line is also Before You Were Mine. So basically it's as if she's kind of opened something, gone into it in detail, and then kind of closed it again. So by ending the same way you started, then you're back at the beginning. Basically she's put this box of memory somehow away. So the meaning then, obviously reminiscing, remembering the past, and obviously that comes from the title Before Your Mind, and then obviously all the things that she actually does see with her mother. The idea obviously as well of having children, and the effect that they actually has on the person. So 10 years away, I'm 10 years away from the corner, etc, etc, etc. Showing obviously the life the parents had actually before they had children, and mother-daughter relationships. So basically, there's lots about it as well. So obviously the mother-daughter relationships, her with her mother, with her own mother, which would be the writer's grandmother. So before your mind, your ma stands close with a hiding for the late one. So obviously it just shows a kind of like, was it more strict and firm? And then maybe this mother doesn't actually want to be like that. So basically on the way back from mass, which again should be maybe something taken seriously, quite firm. Well, no, in this case, this mother, Duffy, or the poet's mother here, is actually teaching her dance steps on the way home from mass. Maybe that's to alleviate what actually came on mass, and maybe that's a reference for the sternness from her own mother. Who knows? But they're all about the relationships and how people are actually kind of raised, and how can people grow. So images, we see the idea of the baby clinging onto the mother, and obviously just making the mother kind of do what she actually wants her to do, and that comes from the possessive yell, which is quite a strong phrase. Obviously if any of you have ever hung around babies, etc., and children, then you'll know that this is it's something you can't actually ignore. In fact, it's some psychological research actually says that the parents it's basically the only kind of sound a human can't ignore. You can learn to ignore anything apart from a baby crying, and obviously that's perfectly put there. And the possessiveness, or what you hold on to, you can't ignore your own children. You also get the image of the attractive girl, perhaps, and obviously enjoying herself, etc., with the obviously the kind of the red shoes that were kind of full of vibrant life. And obviously here where you have these small bites on the neck, so maybe obviously this person was attractive and attracted to people, and obviously they got up to whatever they got up to. You also get an admonition of the days, or the days basically of like a long time ago. This in an image here, you just get this rhythm actually building, this sense of the cha cha cha, and the idea of kind of like a life being given into the poem, just from those three monosyllabic repetition, just that cha cha cha. It really brings a life into something, and obviously that's quite interesting, considering that we think that the poet is actually looking at some pictures here, so it's actually giving life into them. So language, obviously you've got the cha 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 to give the sense of rhythm. You've got the bold girls, and shows how the bold girl, which shows how daring her mum was, and obviously the one who's actually wearing certain kinds of dress, etc., etc. So much so that the child actually remembers, seems to get ideas of Marilyn Monroe, like a glorious figure. And whether the mother looks that way or not, it's irrelevant. It's how it seems to the daughter, and that's that glorification is actually put in a lot with obviously the fizzy movie tomorrows, etc., etc. All of that is kind of building to show like the daring, the life that the mum actually had. And basically when you actually look through as well, one of the other language points that we have is the high-heeled red shoes, which obviously kind of have like a danger and attraction to them, but at the same time they're actually called relics. So obviously there's something that the mother doesn't even use anymore, and obviously that's a reference to the child, that possessive yell, and obviously things that you actually sacrifice when you have children, etc. And there's a really nice image here of the idea of the ghost clatters, and obviously so the ghost again, there we've come away from kind of this perfection of it here and this idolization of it, and the ghost, the word clatters is quite indicative or interesting. I mean, is this person drunk? Obviously, the ghost is the ghost of her mother, the idea of her mother coming through there. But is it clattering around because it's drunk, or is it clattering around because it's up to no good? Who knows? Obviously, you're free to actually analyze that in whichever way you want. So the effect then makes us think about the sacrifices parents make and the sacrifices we'll have to make for our children. Also thinks about things happening for a reason, and basically the trade-off that you actually make for certain things. It could be for, maybe some of you made a trade-off with regards to things for education, or trade-offs that you actually make. So here the mother's actually made a trade-off with a life for her child, and obviously looking at how life can actually change, and also like how it would be looked back on. So this is kind of like, here you get the idea of a legacy as well. So basically the things that the daughter is finding here is actually an idea of what her mum was actually like, and it's interesting, the idea of how we want to be remembered by others. Moving on to the last poem then, which is again a really, really popular poem, Stealing. It's interesting, the enjambment straight away, where you've actually got obviously flowing all the way through to emphasize the word. So especially after like this example here, where you've got the slice of ice just kind of highlighted, and then the ice, you can imagine, because this is almost like a confessional piece, you can imagine someone just kind of thinking that's a bit strange as being said to them. Starts and ends with a question, which suggests a dramatic monologue, and also kind of suggests it's kind of like this person's not used to thinking about other people. Obviously we know that it's speaking to someone, because obviously the first, we're starting with we're answering this question first here, and then obviously they're asking the questioner a question at the end. And obviously the similar stanzas all the way through. Obviously we've actually just chunked it together here, but it basically, again, the similar phrasing of all the stanzas when it's properly laid out actually represents why perhaps this person never got caught for a while, because they were quite meticulous in how they actually went about their work. So the meaning then, obviously thieving, just going on to, obviously that's probably the most simplistic one, just obviously this is a poem about stealing because it's called Stealing, and obviously it mentions some of the things that people steal. But also the interesting meaning that kind of starts developing there is kind of an addiction. Basically, so here we doesn't actually go into it. Basically he or she joy rides to nowhere and then breaks into houses just to have a look. So they take all this risk simply because they're not satisfied with something in their life, which again you can compare to Armitage's poem Hitcher. This person who's just not quite right in society, and they're doing strange things to kind of fill that, and also it becomes like an addiction. So basically here, I mean, the point of stealing a snowman is obviously you can't benefit from that in any way, but the idea of obviously just having it just to do it for the idea, and also the cruelty. Obviously some people doing things for another meaning is some people doing things just because they can, or just because they want to hurt other people. So part of the thrill here was knowing that children would cry in the morning, and then you've got this sarcastic short line, life's tough. Again, she doesn't actually care, or maybe that's just the way he or she was raised to actually think. So the images, we get this great image of the snowman at the beginning, and how it was actually quite a grand piece of something, this tall white mute, and then later on when we've actually got a little more down to it, although it's not directly referencing the snowman there is actually talking about itself as well, but the mucky ghost, you can imagine that being a reference as well to the snowman, even though obviously it's referencing themselves there, it says I'm, but the mucky ghost, obviously when it starts to melt and the kind of the mud and everything is just kind of stretch out, it would look like a mucky ghost just kind of left there, leaving a mess as well. So there's a kind of a double, that line can be taken in both ways. You've also got the image of the man who loved causing pain, obviously when he gets the head and kind of runs after it, obviously he just boots it again and again. So when he reassembles this snowman, it's just kind of like this, just running up to it and kicking it. So obviously it's the image of it's an action-packed image, and it's something that we see just again and again. I mean, how long does that again and again go for? So again, it shows us reflects the mental state of this person that would actually go and do something like that. We see the slightest hope of someone getting somewhere. Maybe they've got a little bit of almost like a retribution, like trying to say they fix something. Sometimes it's not all bad they're stealing. So I stole a guitar because I thought I might learn to play, and I nicked a bust of Shakespeare once. So the idea is that maybe he or she was inspired by something at some point. But obviously it's just kind of like a side thought, an issue, and it seems more and more like this person's been caught, and they're actually saying things like that to try and get out of themselves. But obviously the image is there of stealing a guitar and trying to learn it, and just stealing a little statue of Shakespeare is quite bizarre. And language then. again, we see the simile, the cold slice of ice, and so basically that is obviously a reflection on his own mind, because he wants to mate with exactly the same kind of mind that he has, not very caring, and obviously not interested, the same kind of mind that wouldn't mind waking up knowing that children are crying because of him. We can tell as well that with the language that he actually wants hugged to a chest, and maybe that's a kind of like the language reference there. The word hugged is particularly important, because the idea is that he or she wants to be close to someone, but they can't be close to someone. So this is the kind of thing that they're actually doing to try and live vicariously through people. I mean, maybe the snowman was supposed to be a friend. Maybe he goes into other people's houses because, you know, he tries to make a connection with some people, but he just doesn't know how to do it in a normal day. And so you've got the idea as well, the repetition of again and again, which you could actually break down and just say, obviously, like we mentioned earlier, how that kind of is emphasizing maybe this kind of thing is replaying in a life, and this person isn't actually getting any better with what they're actually doing. And obviously here the metaphor of it piercing, the fierce chill piercing my gut. So that's actually shows again like a kind of the pain they're feeling. So why would they put themselves through this? We don't know. And again, that kind of hints at the unhingedness of it all. So the effect then, well, it makes us consider sociopaths and how some people are disturbed and the kind of things that they actually do. And obviously it kind of makes us consider what could be going on around houses at night. It's rather strange. It makes you actually think that criminals as well, like on their side, they actually do some of these things because maybe it makes them feel better. Maybe they need to do it for some reason to actually feel part of something in this case, and obviously to try and understand or to try and connect with something, even if they do it in a rather malcontent way. And also it makes you think about people who are doing things that are evil and might seem bad. They're not actually doing it for a reason. They're just doing it because it's there to be done, which is quite a worrying thought. But again, it's one of the things that the poem can actually make us think about. And this is a great poem to actually stretch in loads of different ways with the other poems because of the mentality of the character.